Well, here it is, the NES Classic Edition, and I got it for 25 euros. That's on the cheap if you consider what they go for new nowadays. It's a fantastic little device, but will it help me remember? Let's backtrack a bit, shall we? My parents bought the NES in 1987 and I was born in 1988. The console was present for the first years I spent on this planet, but that's also the reason why I have trouble remembering some of the games I had. I still have that same machine, complete with one controller that has red tape all over its cord. Why? I never bothered to ask, but it's always been this way. The NES is the console that probably had the biggest library, but before we go on a quest to find the games, we need to get it to work again. Bad Country wrote a complete guide to the NES library a few years back. Maybe I should pick that up as well. But yes, it's been sitting here in my room, defect, as a display piece. Shane from Silver Skull Customs and myself decided to refurbish the console, and I learned a lot of neat tricks during the process. It was very interesting to see the board and hear Shane's explanation how everything works internally. We had to clean this thing for starters, so I washed all the plastic pieces in the tub with soap and hot water and cleaned the board with cotton swabs. The most important thing we did, and if your NES is broken you should try this as well, is to boil the pins that make contact with the cartridges. For a lot of consoles these have become crooked over the years, which will result in failure to make proper contact with the cartridge. After boiling it for about 50 minutes, they're straight as an arrow and my NES is ready to make its comeback. I sold my last game during my college years. It was Donkey Kong and I believe I traded in the rest way back in the Pokemon Game Boy Color era, or they were thrown out during a move in 07. Anyway, it was stupid and I've always wanted to get those games back. When my NES was back in action, I decided to search the internet for NES games that were reasonably priced. Some titles like Mario 3 and Double Dragon I bought a year back to play on my Retron 5. It's an amazing console to start rediscovering because of the previously mentioned enormous library. I found some of the games I remember having as a kid or games that were already present with the console. Flintstones is the one I have the strongest memories of. Kickle Cubicle is the first game I finished and I actually remembered having Days of Thunder only a month ago. First we're taking a trip down memory lane to play the first game I ever remember playing. It's quirky and the music is an instantaneous throwback. When I got to the first boss, I remember asking my dad to do it, always. I was scared of the dragon, but that's also because of the hectic music. It felt like someone was raising alarm. I never saw how my dad did it, but I obviously haven't played much beyond the first level. When I figured out that Fred could throw little axes, I managed to beat the boss for the first time in 33 years. The game itself is pretty average and it doesn't control the best. Playing it on the Retron 5 gave me input lag and Fred's hitbox is pretty large. His swing is also slow, so you can get hit by enemies in front of you if you don't time it correctly. I loved seeing more of the game, however, especially the cameos by other Flintstone characters. The second boss seemed glitched, so I made short work of that, but then the third was so difficult that I didn't beat him in this playthrough. What I really remember well is the intro of this game. You've got to imagine I was a very young and impressionable child. The color palettes used, the dark and menacing but still hauntingly beautiful music, that scary ass face, it felt like the end of the world. It scared the shit out of me, but at the same time I felt attracted to it. Come on, look at this face! It's the face of nightmares. He seemed like a puppet master from hell. The second game I'm playing is Days of Thunder. There isn't a whole lot to say about this title, except that it's crazy hard and is one of the most difficult pit stop mechanics out there. According to the internet, that is. This was probably a filler title my dad bought. I never remembered us being into NASCAR. We were into aviation, so maybe there's a flying game I don't remember having. A big portion of the screen is taken up by this interface that gives you information you need during the race, but it's a big trade-in if you ask me, because it makes the game, or at least the races, less immersive. What I do remember about this game as a kid is not knowing how to enter a pit. Well, I got that figured out. Pressing B when the curb says pit stop and pressing B when entering activates the pit stop part of the game. I was obviously way too slow as I had to figure out that you need to select the workers with B as well. It's not a very logical setup, but I imagine there's some nice challenge in doing them as fast as possible. The game I was looking forward to the absolute most is Kickle Cubicle. Kickle Cubicle is a very interesting game, and I've actually never heard a bad word about it. It's a puzzle game. The goal is to reach the power-ups within the time by making ice blocks out of your enemies to complete the path to these power-ups. There's some clever variations that get more difficult and less obvious with every stage. You can also clear a path to the ice cream popsicles to get additional points, and there are some enemies like chicks with an eye patch to overcome. It's completely addictive. When I started playing, I actually wanted to finish it in the same evening. What's so cute about this game, but also adds to the difficulty slightly, is the fact that your enemies move to the music around the map. The music does get a bit repetitive, but it's so damn cute, especially when you finish a level. Kickle's little smile as he flies off with the balloon, so cute. By the way, remember when ear warmers were a thing? One of the bosses is a bigger version of the previously mentioned eye patch chick. I remember me and my sister being scared of it and actually pretending it lived in my grandmother's attic. Don't go up there, the big mean eye patch chicken will get ya. Playing a game like this is a full circle moment. It's a confirmation that some things in your life actually happened. That sounds vague, but think about it. If you put your brain to work on a game like this, trying to solve the puzzles and beat the levels just as you did as a child all those years ago, it creates a bridge between past and present. You are still that little boy. That little boy is already that man. Shit, video games get me all philosophical. I'm on the lookout for NES games all the time. I don't care if they suck, I just want to discover them. A game I loved playing on the side while recording this was Double Dragon, especially with an arcade stick. I also want to play that Star Trek 25th anniversary game. It looks absolutely beautiful for an NES game, and that's also something I want to explore. What is the absolute extent of the NES's capabilities? Let's go back to the Classic Edition. None of these classics I own as a child. My parents were actually like, a plumber with a mustache jumping around? Really? What's so fun about that? We remember the Flintstones being fun, so we're buying Flintstones. I actually never grew up playing Mario or Zelda and always saw them at a friend's house. For this reason, the NES Classic isn't a nostalgia pack for me, but more a place of discovery. My quest to remember the games I had continues, however. For example, a while back I was sure I had a Mickey Mouse game on the NES. I thought it was a black and white game with some color here and there, based on the 1920s, 1930s cartoon version. It took some research to find out that I was actually thinking of a PlayStation game I had. Boggles the mind, doesn't it? They don't really compare at all. Some games I thought I played on the NES, I actually played on the Lynx or the Game Boy, for example. Like I said, my quest continues, and I know it's all in my own head, buried under memories. But I ask you, the viewers, humbly, if they'd be honored to join me on a quest to remember NES. Stay shiny, guys!